Okay, if you're listening to this, chances are you feel it. That overwhelming constant pressure to reinvent
Oh,
yourself.
absolutely. It's the career mantra of our time.
It is. Jump jobs, pivot industries, constantly chase a new, shinier title. We've been told, almost like a threat, that if you stand still, you're falling behind.
And it is exhausting, isn't it? That feeling that you constantly have to be shedding your skin. But what our deep dive today suggests is that most of what we call reinvention, well, it isn't really growth at all.
Exactly. Welcome to the Reinvention Reality Check. Our mission today is, well, it's pretty straightforward. We are going to differentiate between genuine career evolution, the kind that demands real internal work, and what usually turns out to be just a strategic escape from discomfort.
And we're going to be looking at this crucial gap that so many professionals fall into. The futurist Jim Carroll, he defines it perfectly. It's the space between your illusory reality.
And the unavoidable current reality.
Exactly.
The illusory reality, as our sources define it, is that comforting set of assumptions we still cling to. The idea that career paths are predictable, that loyalty gets rewarded.
That if you just find the right job, all that discomfort will just disappear.
Right. But the current reality, it demands brutal honesty. It's defined by these rapid tech shifts, economic volatility, and a whole recalculation of what professional value even means.
And if you don't confront that gap between those two realities, you end up wasting a huge amount of energy just running.
And that's where we start. Because this whole deep dive is about stopping the run. We need to look at why these superficial changes fail, what the market is actually telling us, and how to do a deep, intentional, internal reality check.
So let's talk about the running, what we're calling the reinvention trap.
The sources define this so well. It's when you pivot. You go to a new company, a new title, not because you've done the internal work,
But because you need a new environment to, justify avoiding that confrontation.
Exactly. You've changed the wrapper, but the system underneath is still broken.
And you see the symptoms everywhere. High-performing people, jumping jobs every, say, 18 months, convinced they're evolving.
But they're often just running from the same deep issues. Boredom, misalignment, maybe a failure to set boundaries in the last place.
True transformation is internal, and frankly, it's painful. The trap just offers a geographically convenient solution instead.
And this endless external seeking, this constant movement, it connects directly to this really insightful concept from our behavioral sources, fatiga de la claridad.
Clarity fatigue.
Clarity fatigue. And we usually think of burnout in terms of, hours worked.
But this is different. It's not from too much work. It's from having too much to decide. The sheer number of options is paralyzing.
This immediately makes me think of Barry Schwartz's work on the paradox of choice. He showed way back in 2004 that all these options, they don't free us. They actively stop us from making a decision.
And worse, they leave us chronically dissatisfied with whatever choice we finally make.
Because you're always tormented by the ghost of options not taken. You get stuck in what he called the maximizer mode.
A maximizer.
Right.
Right, the person who has this compulsive need to make sure every single aspect of a decision is perfect before they commit. The title, the salary, the commute.
And in the job market we face today, which is so complex and saturated, looking for perfection is just the fastest way to inaction, or worse, an impulsive pivot just to make the noise stop.
You're so exhausted by the cognitive tension, you just jump at the first decent external change you see, just to feel like you've made some progress.
But that decision, that strategic escape, you feel like you've evolved, but you skipped the most critical part, the internal audit.
And the problem with skipping that audit is it makes you incredibly vulnerable to the external market shifts that you're too busy running to even notice.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the specific, brutal honesty the job market is showing us right now. It demands that we stop running.
Our sources point to three big facets of this current reality. The first one is smarter, quieter layoffs.
This is a huge change from, say, the 2008 recession. The headlines are all about the sheer numbers, but the real action is way more strategic.
Companies aren't just cutting costs across the board. They are strategically reallocating talent. It's all about new operating models.
It's like a quiet reshuffle. They're prioritizing roles that are 1, AI-augmented, 2, revenue-critical, and 3, highly customer-facing.
So if your job is purely administrative or easily automated or, kind of tangential to making money,
You're the first to be reshuffled out.
so your reality check has to focus on strategic value, not just busyness. It forces you to ask, Am I solving a high-cost problem, or am I just managing a low-impact process?
The second facet is all about a shift in workforce values, and it's really centered on Gen Z's redefinition of resilience.
They've done their own reality check on the old corporate contract, basically by watching the generations before them.
They saw their parents sacrifice everything, health, family time, decades of weekends, only to get laid off or have their careers stall out.
And the sources are really clear on this. Gen Z is holding firm on work-life boundaries. And it's not a phase. Their version of resilience is about working smarter, more sustainably, not proving their worth through exhaustion.
Which impacts the whole ecosystem. If you're a leader, your reality check has to include that the old expectation of 247 availability is just, it's dead.
And the third facet is the accelerated demand for AI translators.
Right. Everyone is scrambling for AI talent, but there's a huge clarity gap.
The market isn't just looking for brilliant coders. It's desperate for people who can bridge the potential of AI with, tangible business outcomes.
So they need the person who can look at an algorithm and say, okay, that's great tech, but how does this help our sales team cut the average conversion time from 6 weeks to 4?
Exactly that. That skill, the ability to communicate, apply, and integrate tech into the messy reality of human operations. That is the premium skill set of the next decade.
Okay, so if the trap is escaping discomfort, and the reality is that the market demands strategic value, the solution has to be intentional evolution. We have to do that brutal self-assessment.
Instead of just rebranding yourself with a new job title, you have to revisit your body of work and refine your core expertise. The sources give a great framework for this with 3 specific questions.
First, what still deeply energizes you? Not what you think you should be doing, but what makes you lose track of time.
Second, what impact are you proudest of? Look for a time you solved a really costly or complex problem for someone. Don't look at your title. Look at the tangible result.
And third, and this is the one that unlocks the most value, what skill do you undervalue because it just comes easily to you?
We all do this. We dismiss our effortless abilities as non-skills, but those are often the very superpowers the market will pay a premium for because they're rare and difficult for other people.
Once you've defined that core value, then you can embrace the real solution to market volatility, the portfolio career.
This is the big shift, from
Yeah.
renting your time to licensing your expertise.
So your identity is no longer employee at company X, it's expert in core skill Y, and you license that expertise across multiple income streams.
Fractional roles, consulting, digital products, whatever it is. That provides true security. Because the uncomfortable truth is, the market doesn't pay premiums for generalists.
People who are good at everything.
Right. It pays for specialists who solve a specific, costly problem exceptionally well.
But isn't it scary to specialize? Doesn't that limit your options?
It seems like it would, but it's actually the opposite. Specialization is the capital that allows for diversification. You build undeniable credibility in a niche. That's your core. And that authority lets you then build out a robust portfolio.
So losing one client or one project in that model is just an adjustment. It's not the catastrophic crisis that losing your one secure full-time job is.
Exactly. But to make that happen, you have to fight back against that cognitive overload we talked about, the clarity fatigue.
And the strategy here is to move from being that paralyzed maximizer to becoming a strategic satisfactor.
The satisfactor, as our sources define them, is just happier and way more effective. They look for options that meet their core criteria, instead of holding out for perfection.
So you define 2 or 3 non-negotiables. It could be geographic flexibility, mission-driven projects, a specific salary. If an opportunity meets those, you act.
Which brings us to this actionable mantra, decider, luego refinar. Decide, then refine.
You take action based on the information you have, even if it's incomplete, and then you correct your course based on the experience you gain from that action.
Reflection is great, but action provides new, real-world information that just sitting and thinking can never give you. If you wait for 100% clarity, you will get 0% action.
This focus on core value and impact, it leads us to our final reality check. And this one is about professional relationships and authority.
And how our need for external validation can sabotage it.
The lesson from our sources here is a bit harsh. It's that likability is the cheapest currency in corporate life.
It's easy to get, but it doesn't buy you respect or authority. The danger is when that desire to be liked turns into what we call the approval posture.
The approval posture, that's why you see people softening their language, over-explaining decisions, or just avoiding necessary but unpopular choices.
They're auditioning for their colleagues when they should be acting like directors, They're trading impact for popularity.
And that gets even worse when you blur the lines of professional reserve. We have to confront this uncomfortable truth. Your coworkers are not your friends.
They can be friendly, of course, but the work relationship is still a professional, conditional transaction.
So seeking validation by, venting emotionally or oversharing your personal life in a professional setting, that's strategic negligence. You're handing colleagues who might become competitors leverage.
The shift has to be away from playing for approval and toward playing for impact and respect,
The solution here is the anchored posture.
which means practicing professional reserve. Be warm, be collaborative, be human, but don't be intimately personal. And crucially, it means mastering the separation of tasks.
This is a concept from Adlerian psychology, but it's intensely practical. You have to distinguish between your task and other people's tasks.
For example, say you're a manager and you have to reorganize a team. Your task is the reorganization itself, making the best strategic choice.
But the anxiety or frustration or disappointment that your team members might feel about that change.
That is their task to manage. It's not your task to manage or fix their feelings. True authority begins when you can stand by a decision, even if it's unpopular, without needing that validation.
So we've really covered the whole spectrum here. We've moved from the illusion of quick fixes and that cognitive paralysis all the way to the intentional strategy needed for genuine career security in this volatile market.
The core message is powerful. True career security today isn't found in avoiding change or making external pivots. It's found in confronting the current reality with clarity, and then defining an undeniable core value that you can license to the market.
And as we end this deep dive, let's go back to that initial concept. Historically, organizations treated intelligence and talent as these fixed labels, like a static RQ score or a permanent box you were put in. But the world now demands agility. It demands growth.
So we'll leave you with this provocative thought. Which fixed limiting competency label, a label like I'm not a salesperson or I'm bad at strategy, are you still applying to yourself or your team? And how is that illusory label limiting your potential for real, honest reinvention?
So what does this all mean? That's something for you to think about as you continue to navigate this evolving professional landscape.